am muted, off to a great start, but hopefully you can hear me now, and hopefully it sounds pretty good. Let me know how the sound quality is. Hopefully you don't hear the air conditioning in the background this time. Um, Great. What did I say before I got on mute? Oh, I just said happy Wednesday, and thank you all for coming back, and I hope everyone is doing good. Awesome. I'm glad the audio works. Thanks to everyone on Twitter who helped me out with this. The reason I haven't put last week's video up on YouTube is because you can hear the AC in the background, and it's kind of annoying. Not enough to ruin it. I might just put it on YouTube for posterity, but I want to see if I can sort that out first. Which, by the way, I do have to give a plug. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, go over and do that. I am like 20 people shy of hitting 500 subscribers, which came up really fast. I was planning on doing a subscriber goal on YouTube. I think I'm going to set the subscriber goal at 600 for an exciting video that I want to work on. Um, I can tell y'all before I tweet it out, but one of my plans was to do like a subscriber challenge over on YouTube to try and get more people subbed. And the video that I want to do, if I can hit that goal, is building an app and doing an actual like case study of a specific feature, um, and examples of when I think MVVM is a better architecture versus MVI. Because we've done a stream for each of those architecture patterns. Both of those are up on YouTube, by the way. But the question I keep getting is like, which one do you prefer? And I keep dancing around it because it really depends on what you're building. But I thought of a good example of a feature and how it might impact your decision on those two architectures. And so I thought that would be a really cool video, is to do like a deep dive case study on why I would pick one or the other, looking at a very specific feature. So haven't tweeted this out. Maybe that will be the goal for the 600 person milestone, but either way, go subscribe if you're not so you can help us get there. Um, yeah, that's my stuff on YouTube. But let's switch over to the screen today and talk through what I want to build today. So I had posted something out on Twitter because every week, even though I stream at the same time every week, I am never prepared. I never know what I want to work on. Um, but I got a really good idea today, which was how we can support different layouts in Jetpack Compose. So I dusted off the study guide app that we've been working on and off throughout the last year. And you can see I've got a phone and a tablet version right next to each other. Right now, they behave exactly the same, but what we're going to try to do is make them behave a little differently so that the tablet version looks nicer. Maybe it's not all stretched out like this one is. Um, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Um, with that note on stream suggestions, though, something I just want to call out is like I'm always open to stream suggestions. And I'm also curious, for those of you who are semi-regulars in here now, how you feel about, when more context to that, when I started streaming, the goal was to take the study guide app and build it, all the way to completion. Start with a brand new app. The very first stream, we like created the initial commit and set up some code quality tools. And the idea was to build and iterate on this, and it became harder to come up with features and ideas. And a few months ago, really, maybe this whole year, it feels like we switched to where like every stream is kind of its own individual topic. And if I can do that topic on the study guide app, I'd like to. But sometimes I make a whole new project just to demonstrate what we're working on. And I'm not sure what you like more. I think that, the individual topics are good because they don't require any background knowledge. And maybe that's why I'm seeing an increase in viewership, is it helps bring in more people. Um, so let me know, like, if you confirm that, if you'd like, having sort of like standalone topics on each stream, or if you think it would be interesting to go back to building the same app over and over again. Um, Maybe as a compromise, if you like both, something I had been considering for a while is going up to streaming like 2 days a week, and then having one day that's dedicated to this app and another day that's dedicated to the topic of the week, whatever seems interesting. So you don't have to let me know now, but just something that's been on my mind to work through. So, if no other questions, let's dive into what I want to do today. So, um, I've been thinking about one thing that Ooh, redo the app from zero with a fresh design. Each stream can become an article underneath it. That's a really good idea. Um, I had intended to write blog posts too with these, but it just became very difficult. Um, but you know what? That would be a really good idea. That could be fun. And especially because I have a lot of new viewers that I didn't have a year ago. So I think a lot of people who didn't get to be there for the initial app setup, um, that would be cool. Thanks for that idea. Something I haven't yet figured out for today is what exactly we want the behavior to be different between phone and tablets. Because there's a couple different ways we can look at that. Um, yeah, Wild Dog, I think that's what I want to try to do, which is why this stream is really good, right? We can continue with the study guide and focus on supporting different layouts. So that's a really good idea. Maybe that's the sweet spot, is I just have to pick what topic matters each week. Um, but I've been trying to figure out what should be the different behavior between phone and tablet, because I think there's a couple different ways we can do this, especially when we have a list of items like this. So one way is we could switch it to be a grid, that we could have like two articles side by side if we were on tablet, which was a good idea. But I also thought, what if it would be interesting to kind of do like the web approach, where just instead of having these cards fill the whole width, we could have them like take up half the screen and be centered, and we would just have a list of articles straight down the middle. Um, I think that would be a little easier to do than a grid. Um, and so typically with these streams, sometimes I like to start with an easy example of what we're trying to solve, and then as we go, we can dive into a little more complicated examples. Could be difficult with the content here, but what would be interesting? A view where you have a list on the left side and the content of the item on the right. Um, yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe something for hmm, later. Because one of the reasons that would be hard to do right away is because what these do is they well, they launch Chrome. And so I would have to go through first to make it so that the app, instead of launching Chrome, could show the content inside of a web view. Um, and maybe we could do that. I'm actually not sure if Compose supports a web view already, or if we would have to do an interrupt thing like we just saw last week. But good idea. Maybe we can come back to that. But I think what I want to do to start is I want to go over like the core information we need to build for a different screen size. And that will actually take me like 5 minutes. Um, so let's start there. And um, once we understand how we can build for tablets, then we can build something more custom for that. So one way that I wanted to test this out, oh god, my microphone is right in front of this zoom out button that I wanted to see. Um, Interesting. So I feel like this preview is wrong. So we have this preview window in the app already, which is like creating a list of test articles, and it shows them in a list. So we can preview what this article list looks like. So something I thought about doing, I refreshed because I don't understand why the color palette is the same on both. Um, what I thought we could do is we can actually, with this preview annotation, um, we can preview what it would look like on a tablet right away. So we could call this tablet, and then on the preview annotation, there's actually a screen, or no, a width DP property. And we can set this to 360, which is I think like an average, like the smallest width for a tablet. And let's rebuild this. I'm surprised that the preview isn't wider. It's not showing me what I want to see. Um, but I wanted to create a tablet sort of preview. Let's rebuild the project and see if that will do what I want. Um, but I want to put a tablet preview inside the editor, and then we can walk through what we need to do, see it in the preview here. If I can't get the preview to work, we will run it on phone. I did the thing that I say I'm not gonna do, which is update anything before the stream. Uh, but like several hours ago, I was like, hey, we can go to Android Studio Arctic Fox 4. I've got time to make sure it works. And it did work, and now it doesn't like me. Now it doesn't want to work. But let's talk about what we need to do to support it. So supporting this can actually go in two spots, really. We have some behavior that is different for the column itself based on phone or tablet. But another difference is actually here on the article list item. So we should add a preview for the article list item to also be a tablet mode. I'm just going to add the preview, and I'm not even going to bother trying to load it, but we'll talk about it. So we'll create this tablet preview. Width DP is going to be 360. So the way that we can do this is, let's go into our root here, all the way at the top. And there's a class that we can work with for dealing with screen size called configuration. So we can get the current configuration by doing the local configuration.current. And this will, if we click into, oh god, I want to click into the local configuration docs for a second so we can talk about what that is. Ah, it doesn't have docs here. Okay, but all we get from the docs here is that configuration is useful for determining how to organize the UI. I thought we were going to get something a little more interesting than that, but that's what we have to work with. So we can get a reference to that by calling local configuration.current. And if we just do a little autocomplete, we can see some information that's relevant to us. We have orientation, color mode, density, font scale. We even know if the hard keyboard is hidden. Screen information, like there's a whole bunch of information we can learn from this. But in this case, because we're dealing with tablets, the piece we want actually is the screen width, DP. This is what we want. So we get the screen width. And so what I'm thinking about doing for this example that we're working through is let's just talk about it. If we're on a phone, I want the article item to fill the max width of the screen. If we're on a tablet, I want it to only take up half the screen, and then we're going to center it. So let's do that logic first. We can say, well, where does that actually go? So taking a step back, the row that fills the article, we have this line right here, which is fill max width. So we kind of want to do this conditionally, but we can actually do it right with this method because the fill max width modifier takes a fraction. It defaults to 1, which is like 100%, but I could pass in like 0.5, and that will tell it to only fill up half the available width. So using that information, we can say, width percentage is going to be well, let's break this down line by line. We can say is tablet is equal to whether or not screen width is greater than or equal to 360. So if this is true, we know we're on a tablet. So we can say our width percentage is, if we're on a tablet, it's going to be 0.5. Otherwise, we want it to be 1. And then here, inside fill max width, we could set that width percentage. Does that make sense so far? This is what I meant by, to demonstrate how to use a tablet, it would take me like 5 minutes. Because all you need to do is get the current configuration, get the screen width for that configuration, do a check based on some dimension value. So 360 is sort of like the smallest width for a tablet. Um, Hi, new viewer. Thank you for coming by. Um, we'll change our width percentage based on that, and then that's what we set on the modifier as our card. So let's see if the design tab wants to work on this preview. But honestly, it would probably be faster for me to just run it. Um, oh, actually, it kind of worked. Um, so I say kind of because we can see that this is smaller, but one of the problems is you can't see how wide the tablet preview was supposed to be. But you can see from the preview window alone that the size did change. Let's look at a real device and it will become a little more clear. But we're going to have a bug. Spoiler. Um, cool. So, and actually, just to make sure that this is working, I don't know, is there a, there is select multiple devices. I forgot that Android Studio supports this now. So this is a lot better because every time I want to change, I'm going to want to run it on both of these devices. I'm glad that Android Studio supports this now. Because I want to make sure that as I make these changes, the behavior between both form factors stays consistent. Um, and it looks like, oh no, okay. Um, so it looks like the phone section also, looks like the phone section also is going to 50%. You think 360 is too small? Okay, that could make sense. Um, actually, well, do I need... Yeah, I don't think I can put DP here because it's an integer conversion. Yeah. Okay. So what is... Um, okay, I'm going to hit a breakpoint here. And I'm going to specifically this time... actually, let's leave that. I want to run it on here and see if I can hit a breakpoint. It didn't hit the breakpoint. Um, what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to run this on the Pixel 5 and then debug the configuration to see if I can pick up some information on the Pixel 5's screen size. We got a raid. Oh, we got a big raid. Wow, thank you, Jordan. I don't know why that didn't play an alert. Um, I must not have alerts set up for raids, but thank you for that. Okay, so, oh, we got a follower. Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate it. Um, okay, so the screen width DP on the phone was 392. You're right, so 360 is pretty small. I was just looking at this earlier today. Oh, and I think maybe 480 is what I actually want. That's on another thing. Let's try 480 just because that's pretty large and maybe that's a better example. Um, I should can recap what we're working on for all the new people who just came by. We are working on Android development. Hopefully some of y'all are software engineers, even if you're not on Android. But we are working on trying to support different device sizes using Jetpack Compose. So thanks for hanging out. We just started. I can give a little recap in a little bit once I know this works. Um, okay, so 480 is pretty good, at least for a phone and this tablet. Um, I'll leave a comment in my code here for right now. 480 seems like a magic number. See if Google has some official docs on where tablet screens should start. Okay. Chu, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Okay, so we got through the first part of this, which is we can configure Yeah, you can post a link if you found one. That'd be great. We got through the first part of this, which is configuring how much width a row item should take based on screen size. Let's take a look at these docs real quick. Um, I don't know. Sorry, please hold. Um, okay, so this is a good thing here. Here we go. So here's how smallest width values correspond to typical screen sizes. So 320 is a typical phone screen. 480 is a large phone screen. 600 is a 7-inch tablet. So I think we'll update our magic number to 600. And that would be good to know. Thank you for sharing this. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to replace my docs with theirs, and say 600. Okay, sorry, let me get rid of that. We'll add a note. 600 dp is the smallest width for a standard 7-inch tablet. Cool, thank you for finding that. I'm going to call you CP because I don't know how your name is supposed to be pronounced. So CP is what we're going to call you. Okay, thank you again. But now we need the second part of fixing this, which is unfortunately the list column on the left isn't centered. So we fix that inside the article list class. And this one, for our specific example, actually becomes a little bit easier because really all we want to do is do this horizontal alignment property on the lazy column and do alignment.center horizontally. And for this particular row, we actually don't need to worry about whether or not we're in a tablet, because if we take something full screen and center it horizontally, then it's just full screen, right? But if it's not full screen, then we want it to be centered horizontally. So I think this will work. Let's run it and let's see what we get. And like I said, we'll be less than 30 minutes in, but we'll have gone over the initial setup for a tablet. No, it didn't work. I know why it didn't work. This didn't work, and it's not going to be obvious unless you worked on. I built this project, so this hit me. But let's talk about this lazy column. So something you'll notice if we look at the three properties here, we set padding, vertical, and horizontal information, but there's no modifier on here. So by default, this is basically going to wrap its size. But so what's going to happen is we're setting these to take up 50% of the screen, and so the column is going to wrap to 50% of the screen. So if we update the column, basically we can actually just set this to fill max size. We want this list of articles to be the whole size of the screen, then this should work out, and now that horizontal alignment will be applied. Let's try it out, let's see how it works. Let's go. Look at that. All right, we did it. We got our first custom tablet layout in Jetpack Compose. And let's switch this. I think the phone even in, oops, let's turn on auto rotate. I think the phone even in landscape will not be, oh, it will be because it's wider. So even the phone, if it's in, come on, move. Even the phone in landscape will now show this in the middle. And I believe the tablet should have identical behavior. Emulators are locked, but we'll change that. Cool. So we sort of inadvertently supported landscape on the phone too, which is exciting. But yeah, that's our first way of dealing with different screen sizes in Jetpack Compose. Hope that was interesting. We'll keep going, don't worry. Um, Yeah, yeah. So depending on the DP values, it could all change, but that's why we linked, if you missed it, that's why we were referencing these Google Docs I'll pull them back up, would show you some general configurations. So it's a good starting point to use this table. But yeah, of course, like it could always change. Um, couldn't you just set the lazy column fill max width? Um, that's a good point. We probably could, and then that would actually keep the item a little smaller. Let's do that. So we're going to take all this code that we just had, um, lift that out. Um, I'm actually wondering why this is, oh, this is still changed because I'm going to get rid of this. I'm just going to do a git revert on this file uh, if we're not changing anything to it. We'll go back to article list and we can do fill max with percentage on the article list. Um, let's try this out. That's a really good suggestion. Huh. Um, oh, the answer is no. Well, the answer is no because it didn't work. And here's why the answer is no. Um, well, I think because of the fact that um, so we're telling the column, right? So the column changes width, but the column is now not centered in the whole screen. Um, we could. I don't know. Um, I can't use an align modifier because I'm not inside like a box or anything. Um, yeah. If I took the article list and I put it like inside of a box, then I could like center align it in the box. Um, but I think I'm gonna go back to what we had just built because it worked and I like things that work. But you're right, there may be a better way to do this. Let's add that code back. And before we move on to trying to do something different with this example, I'd like to clean up some code. Um, again, anyone who is new in chat, anyone who came in from the raid, feel free to drop a question in chat. Exclamation point recap is a little command that I have to get my attention and make sure I go over what we just did in case you missed it. So feel free to use that if you have any issues. But let's do this. So let's pull this into a private function here. Call it get item with percentage. And we can put some documentation on here. So we can say get a reference to the screen configuration and determine if we're on a tablet or any large width device like a phone in landscape. If so, we're going to return a width percentage of 0.5, so articles take up 50% of the screen. Otherwise, we can return 1 to take up the whole screen. The centering of article items is handled inside article list. Oh god. Okay. Threw in some documentation there. Um, that all looks good. Well, he wants me to clean this up. That's fine. Um, and then I don't think I need to worry about documentation here because um, yeah, we can add it, but just whoops, horizontally align items in case they don't take up the full width. So here, let's do a split and let's see if this preview wants to work for us now, just because I want to see it. But um, we could look at, so we looked at tablet. Something that might be interesting as well is, Eric, thank you for the follow. I really appreciate it. Um, oh, I know why. It's because I set this to 360, but we talked earlier that that's like a large phone. So let's change those preview width to 600. Okay, and now we can see like our tablet version is wider. Um, Interesting that this um, that even in this example that it's not. So we know it works because we ran it, but I'm surprised it doesn't work in the preview annotation. Um, maybe there's maybe the configuration doesn't get passed down the way we'd expect in the preview annotation. But now I just want to double check that the app still works before I move on. Well, the preview probably doesn't have it. Yeah, exactly. I think that that would be it. Um, I'm surprised though because I set it here. Um, but yeah, sometimes there's issues. That there's some weirdness going on because night mode and day mode appear identically here, but if you look in this one, night mode and day mode are different. Um, so I'm not really sure what's going on with the previews, but we can do this. So um, added tablet support by centering items inside the screen. Cool. So we went over tablet. There were some good suggestions in the beginning of different ways that we could make a more complex tablet layout. But before we do that, I thought it would be a good idea to just look at one other configuration piece that might be helpful, which is not so much tablet, but what if we want to support landscape specifically? Um, and I don't know if I'll commit that to the code base. I think I'll just show y'all a quick example of what we can do with that. So where do I want to do that? I was actually thinking about uh, doing something where I like change the background color based on portrait or landscape, just to show y'all. Um, Maybe we'll do that. We can do that inside the list just to show you, because will this give me? I can put a modifier on this. So let's just show you what that would look like really quick. So we start again with getting the configuration. And is landscape, I think, I don't know. Um, okay, so it might be layout direction. I've done this once and it's been a while. Um, no. Orientation landscape. That's the one. Sorry, I had to do a little bit of code completion to find this. So configuration.layout direction. Or is it orientation. Layout direction is probably like left to right or right to left. So orientation is probably what I want. Ahmad, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Um, ooh, Matt with a great idea. Can you set the preview device to devices.pixelc? Maybe. We could try that out. Um, Let me finish this landscape thought. Uh, well, really, that's all it is. I just wanted to show you another example of using configuration information. So, um, for example, we can do like background. Well, let's just do this. So, background color, we can say if is landscape, um, material theme dot colors dot, or well, actually, let's do something obnoxious like color dot red. Um, and else, I think we want background. So I just want to try this out to show you landscape. Let's go over it one more time. Get the configuration, check our orientation, set some property based on that, throw that on the background modifier. So just to run it and see what it looks like to work inside landscape mode. I still can't believe we got rated. Jordan, if you're still here, I really appreciate it. That was amazing. Okay, so the background looks good. Moment of truth. Let's rotate. Ah, the background turned red. Okay, so obviously we could go into a little more complicated if statement than just changing the background color. But I thought it would be good to spend a couple minutes to just look at that and show like portrait versus landscape. So now, those of you watching this, you know how to deal with multiple device sizes. You also know how to deal with multiple device orientation. So this is a really good start and really should be like the core foundation of everything you need to start building for different screen sizes in Jetpack Compose. Um, so now we can enter the fun part of the stream where we can take some of y'all's ideas and build a more interesting feature. Let's delete all that code that we just added. Goodbye. We don't need you. Red background. It was fun. And I want to try Matt's suggestion, which is pointing out that this preview thing was annoying. Um, so let's try setting device. Um, it takes a string. So do I just do this? Maybe? Um, oh, there is device strings. Okay. Ah, so it's a compose tooling dependency here. It doesn't want to import. Um, oh, there we go, because it's devices. Um, oh, and it updated automatically. It has the red background. I think that it referenced some stale code, so let's refresh it. But thanks for finding that. So this is how you can test different device sizes. Nice. Cool. Thank you for finding that. Now, why the night mode thing doesn't work here is still kind of, I know why it doesn't work. Because for some reason I hard coded this. Maybe because I was testing something in the past. Let's remove this hard code that tells it we're in night mode all the time, and now our preview will render correctly. Gotta love hard coded stuff. Cool. So actually, let's carry that over to the list item preview while we're updating our previews. Um, way down here. Um, um, this might render weird because of, I don't know actually. I'm not sure how this is gonna render. Yeah, this renders a little weird, um, but it demonstrates my point that it takes up half the screen. But maybe there's a better way to talk about rendering this individual item. Or maybe it goes back to, I think, CP's suggestion is that maybe um, conceptually dealing with the item width was the wrong way to do it, but I'm keeping it for now. Mixing previews. Cool. So, um, there was a suggestion around doing like a list detail pane. Um, we could do something like that. Um, I actually think that might be, um, I don't have the device on day mode. What do you mean? I didn't, I don't intend to for these, but, um, oh no, this one. I think it's just, I don't know, actually. I don't know. Hmm. We will, we will roll with it. Um, what else can we do differently on phone versus tablet? Someone suggested doing like a, oh, grid list. Yeah, that was one thing we talked about. Um, so right, yeah, I think CP's onto it. It's because of the fill max width. Um, I think what I could do if I really want the preview to work is I can like instead of a surface here, I could like put this inside of like um I could put this inside of like a box or something. Um, but we can, we could put like a surface that fills the max width, and then we'll have an alignment issue. Um, interesting. Oh, no, wait, huh, still interesting. Um, huh, I have no idea because it looks like the item itself is still the full width. Um, interesting. I'm gonna leave it alone. It's not important. Uh, grid to you. Good idea. Thank you, Eric, for that idea. Because I thought we could, as a way to make this a little more advanced as we go, is maybe not always do a grid view on tablets, but like specifically a big screen. So like what if the tablet is in landscape? Um, or like for a large tablet, if we were to go back to the Google Docs from earlier. So there's 600 dp as a 7-inch tablet. We could set a new configuration at 720 dp, which would be like a large tablet, and we could put a grid there. Um, so let's do that. Let's talk first, before we write some code, let's talk about how we're going to do this. Because I actually think this is, um, there's some architecture to consider here. Let me show you what I mean by that. Um, so similar conceptual problem to earlier is like, where does this code? So on small widths, I want to show a column, and on others, I want to show a grid. And so we should have this conversation about, well, where does that code go? Um, and let me talk through like our options, and then I'll tell y'all what I think we should do. Um, so we have this article list composable right now, which shows the lazy column. Now we could update this right here and say that the article list determines how to render itself based on uh, that information. I don't really like that, to be honest, because of the fact that this just gets kind of messy, and I don't want it to be. I want this to be a list of articles, right? Um, so, hmm, I just thought of something else, but it might be a problem later on. So what I actually think I want to do is I want to make a new composable called like article grid, and then have that have all the information. And then what we can do is actually over inside our base fragment, where we create the article list, we can have this conditionally do grid or list based on that configuration. So let me know if that makes sense. If it does, I'm going to start, actually, I'm going to copy this entire file. I'm going to make a new one called article grid, and then I'm just going to rename things and change portions of it. And the reason I'm doing that here is because even though a grid is different enough from a list, all the parameters will be the same, the preview will be the same, etc. So let's put that into a new thing. Yeah, avoiding if branches and composable functions is optimal. And with that, actually, I think that I might try to figure out how we can UI test our change here. I'm not sure how to do it, because I don't know if in the composed UI test, if I know information about the configuration. But actually, you can override a configuration locally. There's like the local composition provider thing in Compose. Ignore that if you don't know what I'm talking about. We'll come back to testing later. But that's a really good point. Let's do this grid part. And now once we have like the full screen, the half screen, and the grid, we can go out and write tests for all of those scenarios, and that'll be fun. And that'll probably take us to closer to the end of the stream idea. So let's start by making our article grid and paste all of that. And I am just going to do a little bit of copy and pasting here. Just bear with me for a second. Okay, I think that was actually all the copy and pasting I had to do, was change this composable function. So there's actually a nice thing. For those of you who have seen the stream before where we made a staggered grid, we wrote the composable for a grid layout ourselves. We're not going to do that today. We're just going to use lazy vertical grid. I'm looking at all these properties here, and I'm not sure what will change. So I'm going to comment out the code that's not needed, just so I understand. We need to mark this as experimental. Oops, I want to do the opt-in one. It's missing grid cells. And I think I can do fixed, and I can give it a number of columns. Let's do 2. Is it called cells? It's called cells. So with a lazy vertical grid in Jetpack Compose, this grid cells, you can either give it fixed, or you can give it adaptive, and then you give it like a minimum size. And then based on that minimum size and your screen size, it will fix the number of columns. I'm actually going to make it 3. Just because if we plan to run this on a large device, that will be what we want. And let's see why items is yelling at me. It looks like it's no longer something about this method signature is different. Let's comment this out and let's figure out what it is in a lazy vertical grid. Items list 2. Oh, maybe it has to do with I think it's the key property. I think that a grid doesn't accept a key property. Interesting. So this could potentially lead to a bug if that's true. The reason that we had this key property before was because we had issues with the diffing and the regular lazy column. I'm not sure if that diffing will be an issue with the grid. We're going to find out. Let's look at the preview for this and let's see what we get. And actually, to avoid confusion, let's get rid of all my commented out code and let's only keep the code we actually care about. until we care about it. Okay, this is, well, okay. Let's ignore the phone previews because this is never intended to run on a phone. So we only care about the preview for a tablet. Um, and this actually looks kind of good, but maybe, um, hmm, can I want to see if there's a large tablet. Nexus 10? I think Nexus 10 would be a 10-inch tablet, wouldn't it? Would be. Um, oh, but this is making sense. This is filling the width. Um, but now what we need to worry about is the spacing between the columns. Um, I don't like that it's not there, and I don't know if the vertical grid supports it out of the box. Um, so I'm diving into the source code a little bit, because I want to try to understand how I can set padding in between each column. And it seems like that's not oh, I think this spacer is specifically for hmm, in between rows. I just realized that. Let's change our fixed count to 2 so we can see how this looks when it wraps. Okay, so that's an issue too. Um, all right. Welcome back, Trax. We are trying to go down the rabbit hole to building a grid layout on a large tablet. Um, and we've got a grid, and now I am just trying to understand spacing. Um, and I wanted to see if the source code supported this already, but it doesn't look like it does. Um, so if the item index is less than our total size, we put a box in here. Otherwise, there's just a spacer. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that's there for. Um, also, hydrate. Cheers. Also, I don't know if y'all caught this, and this actually makes sense conceptually, I think, but a lazy vertical grid is just a lazy column where each column is a row of items. So basically, this logic up here is figures out how many rows you need. So if I have 2 columns, you basically take your total items divided by 2. That's how many rows you have. Each row in the list is a row of those 2 items. Um, oh, I see. This spacer is used for like the last row if necessary. Um, CP, the spacing I mean is if you look at this preview, we've got this grid, but all of the cards are directly next to each other. Now with a regular lazy column, there's actually like a arrangement property that you can set, but it doesn't look like this exists with lazy vertical grid. So I'm actually wondering, maybe we want to take this padding that we're putting on. Sorry, it's hard to fit all the text. There's this padding that we put on the grid itself. Um, Maybe we can put this padding on each individual item instead. Um, yeah, what you just said. I think that's what I'm arriving on. It's a little weird, um, but the lazy vertical grid is still experimental, so maybe the Compose team is still working on that. But let's try that for now. Um, so we'll create a box. Um, and set the padding on that. And actually, I think we can just get rid of a bracket there. Yeah, so the reason I'm putting a box is because this concern around padding is specific to the article grid configuration that I don't want to put padding on um, the individual item itself. So we're going to put a wrapper around it right here. Oof. Okay. Uh, it looks like we had two issues in one here. Um, um, okay, so we get fixed the padding issue, but now it appears our list item is falling through the width check, um, which does make sense. Our configuration is bigger than yes, but the problem tracks, you must have missed this. So earlier we did this thing where we made it fill portions of it. So now in the article list item, we get a width percentage. And based on that, we say, okay, if we're in a tablet, then the width percentage should be 0.5. Um, so, but the problem is that, okay, we're in a tablet, so the width percentage here is going to be 0.5. Now, I'm actually curious why that um, item must use the max width of the box. Interesting. Um, yeah, I think you're onto something, CP. So, okay, that's fine. Let's do that refactor then. So we're going to refactor the we're going to refactor this function outside of um, article list item. So let's cut this. Let's get rid of that line. Let's get rid of that line. And let's go to article list. So we'll paste the item with percentage that we looked at earlier. And let's clean up this documentation. It's no longer right. Okay, well, that last line wasn't. Okay, so um, then I don't think we need to worry about this anymore. Um, we need, huh, um, can I get rid of this, actually? Oh, well, I need, um, right, so I'm gonna need to wrap all of this inside like a box, which I can do. Oh, I can do that part. Let me show you. Um, so, hi, Absol, thanks for coming by. We are doing some refactoring on code we already wrote, but I'll fill you in on what we're doing in a second. Okay, so we updated the article list to um, use an item with percentage based on whether or not it's in a tablet. Oh no, we're not ending the stream yet. We're going to be here for a little bit still, I think. Okay, what is happening? Um, oh, well, okay. So we're having the same problem as before, is that our preview is that's a good point too, Eric, that we could pass in the modifier into the article list item. Um, but right, it shouldn't need to know the behavior. Well, both of you actually said the same thing, right? Like by passing the modifier down, it doesn't know the behavior of the parent, but it's giving the parent the ability to customize its behavior, which I actually don't think is a bad thing. Um, but going back to, I think conceptually, right, what I want to change is the column and not the article list. But we could have done what I did that way, and I don't think that would have been a terrible thing. Um, what we're seeing here is the same issue as before, is like our preview is like wrapping width, and then it's showing like the column taking up half of it. Uh, so let's, okay, but how do I want to do this? So, um, I'm trying to decide if I want to do this in the exact same file or not. And I kind of do. I kind of want article list to be responsible for its size. I could put the logic elsewhere, but I'm gonna put it here for now. So I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put it in another function, and we're gonna call this one the article list column. And we'll put some notes on this. We'll say this was extracted into a separate function so that it can be wrapped by article list, whoops, um, to make sure it is centered on the screen. Okay, so to CP's point, no idea how to center this. So we've done the resizing part. Now we need to center it. The way we can do that, we can actually just use the box composable um, and set this to fill max size. So we're going to create a box that fills the entire screen. Okay, and then we're going to put this inside of it. And actually, I'm going to have to do a combination of what we just talked about, which is inside box scope. There's this thing called box scope. We can reference a specific modifier unique to a box called align. So I'm going to put it here. We'll put it in afterwards. But we can give it, we could do modifier dot align and then do alignment dot center horizontally. Or I guess we just want alignment dot center because it's a box. So we'll pass that modifier down into the column. Aswell, do you remember when you were working on you were live streaming one of the Jetpack Compose challenges and you ran into this exact bug where you couldn't find a modifier? Actually, why am I even talking about this? I did a YouTube video
Hey
on this.
everyone.
Oh God, you can hear it, you can
Welcome
hear
to
it.
the YouTube channel.
No, get out, get out. I was looking up the um oh God, that was awkward. I did a whole YouTube video on this on why Jetpack Compose modifiers are only available in certain scopes. Um, so this align modifier is only available if you're inside of a box. So our article list goes inside of a box that fills the maximum size, and then we tell the article list column to align itself. And actually, because we've done all this wrapping, we can probably move that width modifier up a level and we can still let this base function be responsible for determining the width of the whole column itself. So let's do that. We basically just take this line then, um, and put that here. So now the article list column is exactly as it was before the stream. And now what's changed at the end of the day is this function right here. We're getting our, this should actually be renamed. We can call it get column width percentage. Create a box that fills the whole screen. The column itself will be center aligned. I think we want to do max width first. I think this matters. We tell it to fill max width, given that width percentage, and then align it in the center. This should work out. Let's find out what we get. And then we had to do all this because we were trying to build a grid, and the grid broke because of the way I was doing the item width before. Um, Tablet looks good. Phone looks good. Nice. Um, let's resize the phone just to see. Yep, okay, that's working well. Cool. Whew. Let's commit this before I break anything. Refactoring sizing of column instead of item. Uh, Adding article grid. Um, no, it will work on the staggered because we're not sending anything on the item itself anymore. This modifier that's being passed down is being used on the lazy column right here. Uh, so the list item composable itself is actually unchanged from, yeah, no problem. I'm happy to clarify that. So let's go back to article grid. Oh, look at that. It's beautiful. Um, it definitely could be, we definitely could make it like 3 columns, for something like this. But, oh, the reason I didn't is because I wanted to see what it looked like when it wrapped. Um, let's, That's fine. We can go with that. Cool. So we've got our article grid. That works the same way. Um, or that works using a lazy vertical grid, which really what changes from a column implementation, just doing a brief recap here. We give it cells information. Here we're going to use fixed cells, but we could give it something adaptive based on like the width. We want this to fill the size. And yeah, then we go through the items. We had to put a box around each item so that we could set padding, because it appears on lazy vertical grid right now that there's no way to set padding in between each item. So we kind of had to do that ourselves. I don't like it because what that leads to actually is like you notice how there's a larger gap between cards than there is between the cards at the end of the screen? I don't like that. Now we can hack this. Um, we can hack that, but um, could you explain how the item padding does work? Don't know what dimensions resource mean. Yeah, so what that is, so padding takes in leave fix 3. It will probably not look fine. It would probably just be crunched up. Um, but that's okay, because this was intended to be for a large device, which is why I used Nexus 10. Sorry, SmartCanic, your question on dimension resources. So this padding modifier right here takes in a DP parameter. So if I change this, right, I could do like 16.dp padding. But here, dimension resource, all that does is that goes to the dimensions XML file, uh, where I specified it via XML. The reason I did this is because the app we're working on wasn't always built in Compose, and I already had this like dimension resource. Um, and this could be useful if you wanted to change that dimension uh, based on like screen size or something like that. Uh, but yeah, basically what dimension resource does is it looks it up via XML. You can do the same thing with like color resource or string resource. It's basically a way to look up those XML resources in Android and then reference their real values. And that's actually a good point to the conversation around good question, CP. Let me get back to that. But this dimensions resource actually brings up a good point to this conversation around supporting tablets. So in the example we looked at where we're changing width based on tablet, that's something that's easy enough to do programmatically. But let's say you wanted a different dimension resource based on tablet. So the way you would do that previously is like you would go into this res and you would create like a new folder that is like values SW600, right? And then you could change your dimension for uh um screens of that size, or you can do locale changes like different string translations. You can still use that with Jetpack Compose and using this configuration. And, in some ways that would actually be nice to still have your XML files sorted. I don't know if I would use that if I was building a new app from scratch. I'd probably just want to build it in Kotlin. But if you have an app already that has like your dimension resources, it's still great to just continue using them via Compose. But I think you'll see a lot of code examples where people just hard code the value. That could be up to you. Um, yeah, it can be very time consuming. We wanted to look at the source code for lazy vertical grid to see if it gave us something. Um, well, okay, so um, when you open the source code for lazy vertical grid, you're going to go down one of two paths. Um, you're either going to go into a fixed lazy grid, or you're going to go into this also a fixed lazy grid, I guess, but where it calculates the number of columns based on the max width that you gave it, right? Do you? Yeah. Um, or wait. Oh, the cells. Based on the min size of the cells and the max width of the screen, it's going to figure out your number of columns. But then it's going to go into a fixed lazy grid. So what fixed lazy grid does is it's just a lazy column that adds all of these rows um, and then add some information. So it does put a box around each item, and that's really just to tell the item to fill all the space it can in that little slot, but um, it doesn't look like it looks like if I pass in a modifier, it only gets applied to the column. It doesn't look like I can pass in a modifier on these individual items. Would be interesting to find out if someone has brought up that concern with the Compose team and if it's on the roadmap for a lazy vertical grid. But it sounds like right now we are responsible for. Yeah, I should suggest it. That'd be a really good idea. Um, and while we were there, actually, someone who works on the Compose team brought up this box with constraints composable and made a claim that it is the most underrated composable that is made. That it's like very powerful and very helpful. They sent me a list of suggestions for how you could, or how and why you would implement this, and I'm actually planning on doing like a video or a stream around just no, it was James, Jim, Sprock, something like that. Um, but yeah, I'm planning to do some stuff around this box with constraints because it sounds really good. But alas, um, we have a lazy vertical grid. Yeah, hit me with another question. Can we have a resource in smallest width 600 UP that's Boolean, has a name is tablet? Um, yes, I believe I have seen that. Um, I don't know how Boolean resources work actually. Um, I'm trying to. Is that a thing? I just want to look at Oh, Boolean resource is a thing. Okay. Um, yeah, let's, if you're interested, let's try that out. Um, would that go in like a booleans.xml file? Um, let's try it. Uh, how does this work? So one thing about that though, um, that might change the behavior slightly. So we weren't looking at the smallest width, but really just whatever the screen width is um, for that configuration, which is why when the phone is rotated, we get it here. Um, I don't know if I put it in like smallest width, if that will still work on the phone, but we'll find out. Um, I know there's, oh, I can just do it based on screen width. So I can keep it as like the actual screen width and not like smallest width. Um, there's probably some conceptual argument about why you care about smallest width versus the actual width, but I am opting to go with the actual width here. Because I think that looks kind of nice even on the phone, so it's no longer stretched on the phone either. Um, but here we can do is tablet true. So by default it's false, and with 600 dp it's true. Okay, does everyone follow me so far? I go through sometimes the parts of Android development that I think I take for granted. If you're unfamiliar with layout resource files and why the heck I have two of these, bring it up in chat and I'll clarify. But if you are familiar with that, then let's go back to our article list and go back to this thing right here. So here, instead of doing any logic ourselves, we could even go as far as putting this width inside there, but let's leave it just to, because I think it's a good example of dealing with, ooh, well, I just thought of something that's, so this is totally fine, but one of the reasons I just hesitated is because I feel like I've now lost all of the code that I intended to capture in this stream because we're no longer looking at the configuration ourselves. Um, so, I mean, that's fine, right? Because it'll get up on YouTube and this is good for the application, but I'm just thinking about how some of that code will be lost. Um, it'll go on YouTube. You know what? Now I have an excuse for a blog post. Okay, so we're running this. It's still in the middle on the tablet. It's should be in the middle on this phone here, but as soon as the phone goes back to portrait, that worked. It's a great suggestion. We can use string resources and get rid of all the Kotlin code that's doing that logic for us. I also think that with that, if I want to get to the point where we do compose UI testing, it's not going to work, right? Because the Boolean resource will be based on what device we're running, and I won't be able to override the local configuration the way that we could in a UI test. So I'm going to meet you in the middle here, and I'm going to comment all this out. Wait, I'm going to say, put a note here. Alternatively, if you don't want to do this conditional logic inside your Kotlin code, you can put a Boolean inside your resource folders and reference it here. That is tablet equals Boolean resource bool that is tablet. So I've got some code in here for anyone who does look at the code base. They will know this as an alternative, but I wanted to, with this stream, intend to try to capture uh, yeah, or just this is a good idea. Maybe if I do like a follow-up post on this or something, that'd be good. But great call out, great suggestion. Um, any other questions? I think that was the last. Yeah, that was the last one. If not, what we can do next is we can deal with the conditional logic for, actually, we can combine these ideas and we can actually use this for, uh, I was gonna say we could use this for the grid view, um, where we could make this like a Boolean, like, um, show article grid. And then actually, I wanted to do this at what was the value for a large tablet? 720. Um, at 720, I want to set that to true. Um, what did I call this? Show article grid. So we will keep the compose code for the centering the column, and we can go down this path of using the Boolean for the article grid. So we can kind of see like the both approaches in this commit here. So copying this because next thing we need to do is this conditional logic for the either the grid or the list. So I'm running out of places to refactor this code, or more specifically, I'm running out of naming conventions. I could put it here, but I actually think I want a wrapper right around this conditional logic. I want to make, let's call it an article screen, because I've run out of other names. Um, and then actually, I want to copy these parameters. So we have this composable for an article screen, and a parameter on the composable annotation. That'd be interesting. I wonder if that is the best way, and I wonder if that would make it harder to do some of the overrides that we've talked about. You could definitely make it um, you can make it a parameter on your own and use a default value, um, like this. Um, whoops, not wait, yeah, local configuration dot current dot. We could do something like this. Um, It's similar to the other stuff, but instead of you're just passing it in as like a default parameter. Now that I typed it, I don't like it, but you could do it. um, but now that I typed it, I don't like it. Okay, so we've got this article screen, um, and all we're gonna do in here is just say, should show grid equals Boolean resource r.bool dot. Come on, give me my autocomplete. Why do you hate me? Show article grid. So we could say if should show grid. We want article grid. Okay. On bookmark clicked, on article clicked. Otherwise, we want article list and the same things. So this is a nice way to just configure whether we're showing grid, whether we're showing list. And then what we can do now is base article list fragment. Instead of calling article list directly, we can call article screen. Let's run it. Let me know if you have questions about what we just did. Um, I'll even throw this in here. So we have a Boolean resource that determines whether or not to show an article grid versus a list. This is based on the width of the screen. This composable will go into the article collection composable based on that Boolean. Just clarifying what this does. Okay, so everything looks fine, but I think this tablet will find out if it's... Okay, I don't think our tablet is wide enough to have triggered that. Let's see if we can build a 10-inch tablet real fast. Otherwise, what I can do is we can make a Nexus 10. Look at that. Uh, let's build a Nexus 10 tablet real quick, run it. If this takes too long, I don't think it will. Um, if this takes too long, I will just update it for one of the other things. But whoa, thick boy! Look at that thing. It's taking up my entire monitor. Um, a parameter on the annotation. Yeah, I mean that's to be fair. Like I think that I understand your concern, but also if I were to think about what it would take to build that, I feel like that's over engineering a solution that is not terrible to work with today, but that's my opinion. Um, Especially now realizing that I could use string resources. Um, it's actually I actually like the string resource approach that we landed on better than what we started with because we don't have that in Kotlin code. But again, it goes back to having it inside the Compose code makes it a little more testable, which is nice. Um, yeah, I'm loving this screen. I'm starting my device farm. Yeah, if any of you could I'm gonna charge all of you for the hours that all of these things are running. Okay, why did you close? Yep, we're installing. It's coming. I am not running an M1 chip. I do have a pretty nice MacBook though. I have a 2018 model. But I splurged and it's got like 32 gigs of RAM and like a ton of storage and who makes a light mode tablet? Oh God. Um, well, I said oh God because I noticed right before all of this that it didn't work. Um, Come on. I know you want to work. All right, well, y'all can see how hideous this looks in light theme, and it's fine. Because we're still just using the default colors. Um, I'm really surprised this didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work. Um, Maybe this device really is not 720 width. Um, let's look at, let's go into our AVD manager real quick. Um, this doesn't give me the width and dips, does it? Um, Interesting. So, huh. Okay, what I'm gonna do then, just to prove that it worked or doesn't, is I'm gonna take this and I'm also gonna put it inside the 600 dip one. And so we should see it work. But it would be nice to have separated for an even larger tablet. Um, or maybe I'll change it from 720 to like 700 or something. We'll get like a little bit of another breakpoint. But if it doesn't work on here, then it's definitely broken. It's broken. We've got a bug. Oh, okay. Um, so neither of these showed a grid, which means we have a bug. Um, we call article screen. Should show grid is Boolean resource of this. If should show grid, article grid, otherwise article list. Article grid is a lazy vertical grid. Fixed size. Why doesn't this work? The plot thickens. The preview for this works, right? We could even do, let's throw a preview on here. Let's do phone. Oh, well, I don't think I don't know if Boolean resource is going to work right. I don't think it will. Actually, we talked about that. This is so weird. I'm going to hit a breakpoint for this, and I'm going to run it specifically on the Nexus 10 real quick. And let's see what we get. Um, Sorry, I don't know why it's doing a Gradle build. Should sit up straight. I've been having back issues still. We were definitely onto something. Do I stream often? I stream every Wednesday right now. I keep saying I want to do more. It's just hard to find time. But I stream every Wednesday right now. And I'm hoping to, even on top of streaming, I do want to start doing more YouTube content, so definitely go check that out. Sub over there if you're not. I said at the beginning of the stream I have a sub goal. I want to do a special kind of video if I get up to 600 subs. Also, if you are over on Twitter, give me a follow over there and you'll see me tweet about what we're working on. Okay, what the heck just happened? Why didn't I hit this breakpoint? I'm starting to wonder if I'm running stale code. Like, I'm gonna stop everything. Um, I don't think it matters, but I just put a breakpoint inside this article screen and I didn't hit anything. So, are you sure it does not read the 600 one first? I think it will use whatever is closest to whatever's largest, but I made it true in both of these. And it did not work. So, but I put this breakpoint in article screen and I didn't hit it. So I'm wondering if it was running some stale code. So I'm gonna rebuild the project and then rerun it. Breakpoint refused, yeah. We'll try this again on well, now that I'm rebuilding the project, I want to remove this because I want it to actually be different. But try this out. Yeah, so the stream that I want to do when I get to 600 is I want to, I've done some streams in the past where I looked at the MVVM and MVI architecture patterns. We did one for each of them. Both of those should be up on YouTube. And I want to do a sort of case study video looking at a specific feature set and diving into why MVI might be better in one case and why MVVM is better in another, and try to solidify that, age-old question of which one should I use, because it really is dependent, but I try to give people as much information to make the educated decision about each one. Yeah, do it. Do it. It'd be great. I'm sure people have plenty to learn from you, and let me know. Reach out to me. Twitter's the easiest way, but you can reach out to me anywhere. You can even use whispers on Twitch if you're not on Twitter. But I'm happy to talk through ideas you're working on, review any of your videos. I'm happy to do any of that stuff. Um, okay, am I really not hitting this? What is happening? None of my wait. Okay, hold on. None of my breakpoints are being hit. Why not? Oh, that's awkward. We should probably fix this. That the column is being centered in the whole screen if you only have one bookmark. Um, that's a fun bug. Um, I am losing it over this. What are we doing wrong? Okay, I know what we're gonna do to test this. I think someone suggested doing this, and I just now understood what you meant. Um, let's literally hard code this to true, and let's see what happens. Run this on everything. Why not? Um, are you? Oh, I didn't press the button. Hmm. Yeah, I can always trust the classy debugging statements, but I love how this looks when they all start up. Okay, yeah, something weird is happening. You know what we're gonna do? To make sure to really make sure there's no stale code, we're gonna uninstall it from all of our devices. Because I'm starting to think that we've run into a classic case of just like stale code somehow. Um, so we're gonna uninstall it from everywhere, and then we're gonna run the code that I expect to work one more time. And if it doesn't, we'll go into some debugging. Um, but those of you who are new haven't heard this spiel. I actually love when this happens. One of the reasons I wanted to get into coding live stream when I started is because I wanted people to be able to, well, learn Android development in real time uh, from someone who does this every day. And then also uh, I wanted to allow for people to see the raw development experience. I want people to see me run into bugs and how I Google error messages, how I look into resolving these issues, tackle some imposter syndrome. You can be a Google developer expert and still break your Android apps. It happens. So every time this happens on stream, I get like a little nervous and embarrassed, but it's also why I did it. Because um, unlike my YouTube videos where I try to polish everything up before I record so there's no hiccups, um, you actually miss some of that. You don't see the hard work that goes into creating those sample apps. So um, you get the raw experience here. So I'm glad y'all are here for it. It didn't work. I'm I'm so confused. All right, do we have Timber in here? We do not. Okay. Oops. So we're gonna go with some debug statements. Um, build only. Oh yeah, build only this. That's true. That's something I could try as well. Um, let's try that too. Um, let's look at specifically the Nexus 10 ones. What is happening? What is happening? All right, it's definitely not my code. It's definitely. All right, you know what? We have nothing left to lose. Invalidate caches and restart. Am I sure I call the new composable? Yes. That much I made sure of. It should be. Um, we're just gonna restart Android Studio. That's that's our next bet. It's our next move. I see people joke all the time about how they use like invalidate caches and restart like 3 times a day, but I'll be honest, I use it like 3 times a year. That I have an issue so bad that yeah, this is a horror story. Ooh, invalidate caches and restart is 4 words. I should steal that. I should go tweet that. Also, yeah, instead of running multiple devices, let's continue to run it specifically on the Nexus 10. Let's start there. Thank y'all for bearing with me. And maybe after we fix the grid thing, we'll see if I'm still motivated enough to do testing. Testing this might actually be hard for a different reason. Um, we'll come back to it. Oh, the hydrate. So as you watch, you will earn channel points from watching me. You get like so many every few minutes. And then the rewards are like rewards for earning those channel points. So you can highlight your Twitch message. Hydrate is just that I'll take a drink of water. So it's a way for y'all to make sure that I'm staying hydrated while I stream. That's it. It's just silly. Um, there's some to unlock sub emotes. I only have one emote. Um, but then there's others that are for viewer rewards. So once you've gained a lot of channel points, I can do some code review. I let people send me like a GitHub link and I'll do a review of their project on the stream, give suggestions, feedback, stuff like that. Um, and then Captain America is a good one. It's a does it say oh yeah. I wear a Captain America hoodie that covers my face. Um, it's 10,000 channel points because I don't want it to happen all the time. But I might lower it a little bit so it can happen a little more. Um, because so far only one person has redeemed it, and it's someone who has watched like all of my streams from the beginning of time. I realized 10,000 channel points is really hard to get for someone who only streams once a week. Let's give this another go. Ah, the hydrate will do that to you. You earn more points if you sub. You're right. I should have made that selling point. And you will also get our sub emotes, which are themed after the Android desserts. So your first month of subscribing, you have a little cupcake next to your name. After 2 months, you get a gingerbread. Those are the only two I have, but more to come. So like if you look at my message I just sent, you see a little gingerbread in front of my name. Doesn't show up on the stream, but you see it in the Twitch chat, hopefully. Um, all right. My breakpoint, or did my debug statement not run at all either? We have got some voodoo going on here. Um, yeah, if you have Prime, you can sub for free. Thank you for. I need to work on my selling points. All right, let's figure out what in the world is going on here. I am losing it. Let's just change the fragment to create an article grid. And if this doesn't work, I don't know what is going on. I don't know what I don't think I wanted to run that. Yeah, I didn't want apply code changes. I wanted to debug. This is weird. Okay. Am I crazy? Does it not go through this? I think I don't understand my own application anymore. um, oh my God, I know what I did. I think I know what I did wrong now. Let's start from square one. Oh, this is gonna be so embarrassing. I'm afraid to look at the timestamps when I realize how much time I spent wrong on this. Let's go into our main activity. Let's look at the app from square one to understand how the UI is rendered. And we're gonna learn about something that I should have done a long time ago. Our activity is created. We call set content. We have a study guide theme. We have a nav controller and a list of tabs. And then here is our scaffold, the app bar, the bottom navigation. And then we have this that shows the article list screen for each of these things. I kept going into this base article list fragment class that existed from when we first made the app. And there's compose code here because when we first made the app, we showed how to use compose inside the fragment. But then we did compose navigation and we got rid of the fragments, and somebody never deleted their stale code. So that is why we never hit a breakpoint in the fragment, because a fragment has never been created. I am so sorry, but talk about the raw developer experience. This is what it's like. Oh, that hurts. Okay. But now that we know, we can take this back. This code is what we wanted. This code should actually work like we expected. And what we can do is we have this article list screen. So this is already, I thought this made familiar. I think the grid will fill max size. I'll double check, but um, yeah, I'm gonna use a YouTube title like you won't believe this bug. Um, okay, so look at this. So this is the exact same code as is in the fragment, and this is what I want to change. It's a little confusing now because I have article screen and article list screen. What I'm gonna do is this function right here. Um, why don't we rename this like article collection? I don't know. I'm just looking for a synonym to article list um, that doesn't clash with the existing screen uh, context. Okay, we're going to run this on multiple devices now because I expect this to work. Okay, so here, where I actually create the UI, is where we're going to call article collection. And now we should hopefully have something that works. Uh, and you all asked me, are you actually calling the composable? And I said yes. I wholeheartedly said yes to that, thinking that I had to be calling the composable. And I wanted to blame everything except. But see, code doesn't lie. Like, code does what you tell it to do. Code does not lie. So, hey, look at all this. Um, this one actually should not. Oh God. Okay. Um, huh. All right. Well, it worked. It worked. It's not pretty, but it worked. I'm also not sure why this medium tablet showed it. I expected it not to. Let's double check real quick. Interesting. So, um, this must be at least 720, which I didn't expect, but that must be true. Um, that's annoying. I wanted this to not, I wanted it to be different, but that's fine. We, that's fine. We're just gonna roll with that. Thanks, Benny. Have a good night. Um, all right. We, let's see. I'm trying to decide if I want to fix this horrific looking UI. So what's happening, right, is that we have our individual list items, they're like fill size or they basically wrap their size. They fill the maximum width that they can, but their height just kind of wraps. And so that's fine for this one. It's fine if cards are different sizes, but in here, um, that's actually kind of annoying that they'll be different for each row. And I don't know how I feel about this, and I don't know if I want to spend time fixing it or not. I kind of don't want to. I kind of want to let it go for today and actually see if we can look at UI testing the column configuration that we talked about. So, what do y'all think? Y'all want to do a little bit of compose UI testing before we hop off? Um, let's do that. Let's commit this either way. Um, refactoring to show a grid on large tablets. Compose testing, nice. Okay. So we've done a little bit of this before, but this specific thing we're trying to test is a good one. Um, we can first kind of write the test a little bit, um, and then I'll talk about why I'm worried about how we would test this. Um, okay, let's start with um, let's start by looking at the test. So we actually already have a class in the code base called article list test. And I'll collapse these, but basically what these tests do is we have one that tests that I can render the article list, um, and one that tests like clicking the bookmark. Um, let's, I'm gonna copy some code real quick. Um, but I don't want to walk through that whole test because I want to specifically talk about the tablet UI here. Um, so let's write a test and let's call it render small column on tablets. Yeah, let's go with that. Um, so what this is going to do is this little map right here will just create a list of test articles. and then compose test rule dot set content will put an article list on the screen. So one of the things we need to do is override the configuration for this test. And I'm not 100% sure how to do that off the top of my head, so let's look at the docs together. So I know there's a way you can override, it's called a composition, I think, in Jetpack Compose. Composition provider. Maybe it's, hold on, local composition provider is what I want. That's the name of the thing I'm trying to find. Let's see if this Medium article helps explain it. So, oh, is this by Florina? Oh no, this one's not, but um, I'm trying to find code to explain. Hmm. Okay, so like here's an example. Um, so take a look at this first name composable. You can see this line right here where it references this local name alpha.current. Notice this is very similar to what we had in the code where we reference like local configuration.current. So we can override that if we wrap our thing inside this composition local provider. And then we give it information about the value, like the configuration or whatever composition. We say that this provides some information. So we would basically need to take some code like this, composition local provider, and say that local configuration provides, and then give it our custom configuration. So let's try to write that code. Let's see how that goes. So let's see if we can write tablet configuration. Uh, is it this? Trying to see how I override this, if there's a constructor I can make. Um, it doesn't look like I can I create a configuration? Maybe. Maybe we can do, it doesn't look like I can just create a configuration. Let's try to wrap it. I wonder if I can even. Wait, did they get rid of it? Oh no. Oh, composition local provider. Ooh. Um, um, so we just need, is that the class? Oh, that is the class. Okay. Um, so we can say, I think it's because this used to be a Java class or something. So we can say apply and then override the screen width DP. There we go. Sorry, thanks for bearing with me while I type that out. So we create our own instance of a configuration. We can set the screen width to 600. Actually, let's even just make it like 620. I don't know, 600 is good. It tests the corner case. We set our composition local provider, and then tablet configuration, and we run this. Cool. So this will create a lazy column that is 50% width. Um, but the next, so what comes up here is we need to make some assertion on the view. So we can do like compose test rule that on node, um, like, so we can get a reference to the column by doing like um, looking for something like has scroll action. This will give us um, the column. And we want to assert some information. But the thing with this is like you can't assert width, I don't think. Um, you can I don't know if you can see this. But like you can set look like has text, has you can be like has content description, but we don't have any way of verifying that width directly. So this becomes tricky. Now, if we want to configure something about um, let me pull up the testing docs real quick. Sorry about this. Wow, my screen is bright. I just noticed how much my camera changes when I open up Chrome. I'm like blinded. Um, okay, so semantics is what I wanted to look up. So UI test and compose use semantics to interact with the hierarchy. Um, some semantics are applied automatically, but you can also give it your own property, like you give it an accessibility label. And so what I wanted to look up is, well, let's see, there's the setup, that's fine. Um, we know about the testing APIs, or I do, I can walk y'all through that. Um, assertions, um, actions, matchers, okay. Um, custom semantics properties. So you can create custom semantic properties to expose information to tests. To do this, define a new semantics property key and make it available using the semantics property receiver. Okay, so like this shows how we could, wait, why does this say of type Boolean and then it's a long? I feel like this is a typo in the docs. Create a semantic property of type Boolean, and it has this picked date key, which has a long, and then it exposes it here. Now you can use that property using the semantics modifier. So pick date equals date picker value. And then from tests, you can use expect value of this. So I think that we would want something like this. We could create a custom semantics property that is like the column width, expose that, and then via tests, we can say what we expect it to be. So let's try that. I'm going to copy this code. And we'll try it out. So let's put it at the top of the class here. So say column width key equals semantics property. Whoops. Semantics property key. This will be a float actually. Column width. So then semantics property receiver dot column width by column width key. So that's our custom semantics property, just following the docs there. I can't explain it to y'all too much. And then on the article list column, we can do semantics and then column width equals item width percentage. And actually, we can rename that the column width percentage. So this is how we set custom semantics ourselves. Let me know if you have any questions. I can try to explain it. Oh, you can't see because of my face what this looks like. That just says column width. Yeah, it is pretty convenient. It's really nice. So now the next thing we need to do is take that semantics property that we just set and reference it from the test. So we can got it. So I'm going to copy this. But we want to basically do a similar thing here. So we could do compose test rule on node, semantics matcher, expect value, column width key, and then we're expecting 0.5 here, and then assert exists. So that's what that is going to do. So let's go over this test one more time. We create our list of dummy articles. We call compose test rule.set content. We create our custom configuration, and then we use this composition local provider to override it. So anytime that we reference local configuration inside this code, it's going to use our tablet configuration and not that of the device it's running on. And then we have our article list. We don't care about bookmarked or article clicked for this example. So then we're going to reference our custom semantics matcher and verify that we have one of 0.5f. Before I run these tests, I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to say render full column on phones just for completion. We're going to change this to phone configuration. We'll change this to 320. And here, we're going to change this to 1F. So let's go into this. We'll run all of these. And, oh god, I think they're going to run on all the devices. I meant to change that before I ran them, but it's fine. We can see our device farm run. So what will be cool, actually, is we should see, even on the phone when the tests run, we should actually see the phone try to do the tablet configuration. Because it's using our custom configuration, right? Not the real phone's configuration. So we've got Gradle builds running. So while this runs, we'll just sit in chat. I'll watch and see if anyone has questions about what we just did. I'm still a little confused. I didn't understand the first part on like creating the semantics key, but conceptually I understand it. We need some semantics information that we set ourselves that will be available for the UI tests so we can run our own custom things. Look at those tests run. Looks good. I love watching stuff like this. I love I love UI testing. You can see just now the phone had the half width thing, so I'm pretty sure all of our tests are gonna pass. But I love watching UI tests. I love seeing that my code works on different form factors and everything. And look at this. We get this nice little chart. We're not done. Oh no. Yep, we're done. Everything passed on every device. Super exciting. So, yeah. Any other test ideas? I think that was it. We could take that same idea and apply it to like article collection, but that won't work because of the Boolean resource. I don't know. There might be a way to override resources in a unit test, or in a UI test, but I'm actually not familiar with it. But I think of the new stuff we did today, that was the best UI test we could do. But we did it. We learned how to support tablet layouts in Jetpack Compose, and we learned how to write UI tests for those tablet layouts. And this was actually This might be a little underrated, but if y'all like to hammer this point one more time, we have a UI test for a phone and a tablet configuration that I can test regardless of the device it runs on. So even if I only have a phone, like the Pixel 5 in the middle, I can write a test emulating tablet behavior without needing an actual tablet device. I think this is huge. I think that's really helpful. Um, and something like that can actually, if you are paying for like a device farm or running on multiple devices, if you're doing screenshot testing, you might still want to do it. Um, but you can run your multiple configurations all on a phone without even having to worry about it. I think that's really huge. Awesome. So let's push this up. UI testing the tablet configuration. And I think with that, I'm getting ready to wrap it up unless someone has something they're interested in doing. I'm always happy to hang around. But what I will do for the moment, while y'all have a moment to tell me to stop, I'm going to make a PR for this, supporting tablet layouts. Um, so showing full width list on phones, show centered list on smaller tablets, show grid on big tablets. UI testing the small, big grid flow. And so this will take a while to run. I won't merge this right now because we actually have a whole bunch of stuff. So this will run some static analysis checks that are in the app. It will run our UI tests for us. It'll run danger, warn me of all the libraries that are out of date. Yeah, thank you all for hanging around. Thank you, Jordan, Vape Juice Jordan, I'll say the name. If you're still around for the raid earlier, that was incredible. Thank you to all the new followers and the new subs. Yes, the stream will be recorded, and yeah, you're late. I'm just wrapping up. The stream will be recorded, and it will be put on YouTube. So go sub over on YouTube. Expect to see it there, and maybe tomorrow or by Friday at the latest. Good stuff for me to blog about in here too. I haven't written a blog post in like, God, how long has it been? Like months. We can see what was my most recent blog post. Oof, that was March. I haven't blogged since March. Thank you, CP, for coming by. I appreciate it. Yeah. If you're not following the study guide, that's the link to the repo. I'll even post a link to this specific PR if any of you want to follow it. Usually after the streams, I make sure all the checks pass. I try to clean up any documentation about what I wrote today. And yeah, feel free to poke around the study guide app. I'm gonna make an issue right now, if I don't have one already, which is to delete fragment classes that aren't needed. So that I don't update a fragment thinking it will work and then spend 20 minutes wondering why my code won't work because I'm calling the wrong code. But thank you all for powering through that with me. Let me see if anyone, since someone raided me, let me see if there's anyone who's online that I can raid tonight. If you're unfamiliar with a Twitch raid, it's basically where I will look up any friends that are streaming, and then I'll take y'all